what I said was, in socialism and communism, you have to have perfect knowledge. Perfect knowledge. Some people have to have perfect knowledge. You don't have to agree with me about this. This is just my opinion. I'm not preaching this. This is just my story. So you have to have perfect knowledge in order to figure out, how to distribute goods and services, how to, what widget needs to be where and when. In the free market, even as with all the problems we have, and we do, I think, I know, the free markets do tend to allow more efficiency. And I felt my energy start to close. I felt it begin to close. I began subconsciously to stop listening because I thought there was an opinion coming that I wouldn't agree with. And I noticed it. In that moment, I felt myself closing down. And that's not a feeling I like. I'm awake enough. I'm aware and conscious enough to see quickly when I begin to shut down energetically. And so I stopped that. And the best thing for me to do when I feel myself beginning to close down, when I'm in relationship with another person, one of the best things is to ask a question of the other person and then listen to the answer. And that's what I did. And I won't go through what the answer was, but I asked the question, I got the answer, and I was like, really? Wow. Because I got a perspective on life and economics I never had before. A very practical perspective. I learned something. And the energy was flowing. I felt good. So that was the beginning of this journey that we've been taking on spiritual healing. This first step, the decision not to judge the world by appearances. The next thing we did was we acknowledged that there was only one power in the universe. Only one. Only God. There is not the power of good versus the power of evil, the power of right versus the power of wrong, the powers of light versus the powers of darkness. There are no wars being fought. There is nothing to battle or overcome. This is not the way the world sees it. There is only God. There is only God. That's the truth. And when you and I feel anything other than peace, if we come back to that, there is only God, then we find it. Now, if we look closely at what's involved, what's important to me in all spiritual teaching, and this is true of all unity ministers and the unity movement, because our school used to be called the Practical School of Christianity. It was the School of Practical Christianity. Practical being the most important word. How can I use this? So we talk about detachment. What is that really? It's surrender. Detachment is surrender. Detachment is giving something up. And this whole process has been one of progressive surrender. The first thing we did, we surrendered our attachment to judging the world by appearance. The second thing we did was we surrendered the attachment to the belief that there are powers other than God. And yet, even as we're at this point, there may still be a lingering, abiding feeling, a sense of God being a mental concept, of God being something we have an idea about, a belief about. You see, the final step in spiritual healing is moving beyond all ideas, all beliefs, even thinking. This is the final step. So I'd like you to read along with me. The first paragraph on page 2 of your bulletin, offered by Joel Goldsmith, whose teaching has inspired this series of talks. Take a deep breath in before we begin. And join me, please. So the time must come when it is no longer necessary for us to state or even think, I am spiritual, I am spirit, I am a child of God. Such affirmations automatically drop away when spirit itself begins to live our lives. We begin to see that what we have learned is not so much the truth of being as the basis for the consciousness of the truth of being. This is a step beyond our usual customary New Thought practice. Our practice of positive thinking and positive affirmations. Now, I want to be very clear. There is nothing wrong with positive thinking and positive affirmations. I am not inviting us. That's not a double negative. I didn't try to turn it into a yes. I am not suggesting that we stop positively affirming. There are so many ways to relate to God, and we need them all. Anyone that I know of that has achieved an ongoing sense of mastery in the mystical path has said that they can't maintain that state. They don't maintain that state all the time. They may maintain it more and more frequently, but not all the time. There is a time to look up and ask. There is a time to get down on your knees and pray, on your knees and pray. There is that time. And there is a time that you and I can rise even higher into mystical consciousness. And that's what this invitation is. To know that it's there. To know that we can be there and go there more and more frequently. And in doing so, we move beyond the positive affirmations, the need to say, I'm spiritual. I am spirit. I am a child of God. You are a child of God. We move beyond it, not because it's untrue, but because we don't have the need. Our consciousness has expanded beyond that need. This is a big teaching for me. And I want to read this one more time. I want to read it to you. And I'm changing the pronoun to you. And I'm inviting you to close your eyes if that supports you in taking this meaning deeper. And if it helps you to open your eyes, keep your eyes open, and do that. So the time must come when it is no longer necessary for me to state or even think, I am spiritual. I am spirit. I am a child of God. Such affirmations automatically drop away from me when spirit itself begins to live my life. I begin to see that what we have learned, what I have learned, is not so much the truth of being as the basis for the consciousness of the truth of being. You may open your eyes. At this point, when we are in this consciousness, It is no longer Tim or Patty or Melinda or Scott or Ed speaking and moving and acting and loving. It is the Christ within you that speaks, that responds, that bestows, that gives, that blesses, that loves. It is the Christ in you. And here's another invitation. Do not let the name Jesus, often associated with the word Christ, do not let that name stop you from embracing the Christ that is you. Don't stop there. What Jesus came to teach was that he said, Abba, Abba, which is the personal Father, the close Father, the Father that embraces and loves you. The mother that embraces and loves you. Abba and I are one. And then he said, if you've seen me, you've seen the Father. You've seen the mother. And then he taught, whatever you see in me is in you. That's the whole teaching. The Father and I are one. The mother and I are one. If you've seen me, you've seen it. And if you can see it, you are it. That's what he came to teach. You are the living Christ. The Christ is God made manifest in this world. And that is who you are. Our prayer life, the evolution of our prayer life, I think it does mirror the evolution of our understanding of spiritual discernment, which is spiritual healing, coming to see the truth. When you were a little boy or a little girl, you may have gone to bed saying, if you know this, say, now I lay me down to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. In that prayer, there's a very clear acknowledgement of a higher power, right? It's a good thing. There is a sense of separation, of distance between the child and God, the Lord. As we get a little older, our prayers include ourselves and other people as well. We may pray this. We may pray, dear God, protect my children. Heal my son, my daughter. Let them succeed in all ways in life. Please, dear God, do this. Please. Nothing wrong with either of these prayers. I say unconditional. And yet when we move into the mystical realm of prayer, we move beyond asking and seeking and beseeching and reaching. We look within. We go within. And our prayer, our one prayer, is knowing our oneness with God. This is the ultimate prayer. To know your oneness with God. The Father, Mother, and I are one. You are not the allness of God, but God is the allness of you. And as you know this about yourself, you become an open channel for the joy and the will and the love of God to flow through you. Because when you focus on that one thing, you are no longer focusing your life or your prayers on lack, limitation, sickness. Your focus isn't there. Your focus is on God and God alone.